Spartans in action tonight. Don't know what to expect from Maryland. Weird team. Sometimes the Spartans are too, but they're a better team. Hopefully it's a win away from home. Let's welcome in the good doctor now. He'll be keeping an eye on that one, at least askance among many busy duties, but takes time to watch MSU, the green and white, whenever they are in action, and that is Dr. John Braccio. drjohnb.com, the place where the podcast always reside. Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning to you, Dave, and always a joy and a pleasure chatting with you, even on days in Florida that are in the 70s and in Michigan that aren't in the 70s, but whatever it is, it's a human nature, human people contact that makes the difference. And today, of course, we're talking about the small intentional acts that make a long-term successful marriage successful. And I think when people think of successful marriages, relationships, they're usually thinking of the big things that people do together that people can see. But the success of a really long-term marriage is based on intentional acts made every day that make each love each other more. To begin with, they never lose track of why they loved each other in the beginning. They regularly make comments to each other to this end. They also have regular kisses, hugs, and thoughtful statements of appreciation and love. Too many couples fall into a pattern, really, of monotonous routine to the point they lose track of themselves as a couple, and each goes off in different life directions that eventually lead to such a separation that the relationship ends. Now, what I'd like to do is mention some of the small things, really the small intentional things that can be done to keep the marriage intact, if that's okay with you right now.
Absolutely.
I'd like to do that. Okay. Well, let's begin. Just appreciation, smiles, humor and laughter, movie watching, planned date nights, planned sexuality, spontaneous sexuality, thank you statements, love notes, cards, messages, and emails, quiet times discussing feelings and activities that are important to each other.
Okay.
Listening to music, walks together, the day or weekend getaways, dancing, quiet evening dinners topped off with chocolates and desserts. Eliminate complaining as much as possible. Use active listening to resolve problems. And constant I love you statements with sincere meaning. Now, if people do those things and work at them and mean it, then there's a very good chance that the relationship, the marriage, is going to really last for a lifetime.
What if it's like 75% of those, or 85%? Would that be a good start?
You're not going to remember. You're not going to do every one of those. But if you're really working, I think the "I love you" statements, the hugging, the doing things together, keeping intimacy, just making the two of you the center of your lives. That doesn't mean if you have children you ignore them, but you don't let the children subsume you to the point that you lose track of each other. You always have that special time in relationship, and it's the small things. It's the just even calling and leaving a message. I love you. I care for you. We were meant for each other. God sent us together. Whatever, however you want to look at it, it's keeping the relationship special. And if that's done, it will last for a lifetime, assuming the people really love and care each other and they're really trying to maintain it.
I like what you said here, though, the premise of the segment. And, I've been married. Let's see, how many years have I been married? I got to get out and get a calculator out to figure this out. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But this year, we'll be married 35 years. Okay. And that's a pretty good run. It's not a golden anniversary or anything like that, but there are a lot of folks out there not been married that long. It's not gigantic things every day. It's small stuff that makes up our lives and makes the difference here between, wow, I've got a connection with you today, and she can say the same thing, is the small. It's not going over. It might just be, we get busy, I get busy, but I'll send her a text. I'll send her a bad joke, and I do. And she'll be like, not that funny. And I'm like, okay. But even in saying not that funny, I know her, so I know she's kind of going snicker, snicker. So, and that's okay. It's just you're on my mind, and it's a positive thing. That's a big deal. I'm thinking about you, and it's in a positive way. That's not a small thing either, is it?
No, it's really the small things that really make it something big.
I agree.
It's not just that trip to Europe or that long 2-3 week vacation or the big party you had at your home. No, it's really the day-to-day activities. I love you. I care for you. Give me a hug when you leave. I love you. I care for you. I appreciate what you do for me. Things like this, making time special, turning off all the electrical things and just talking, just kind of doing that old activity, talking with no interruptions. And even if you have kids running around, there's always a time that you have to make if you don't have it right there. You've got to make sure that you're together and you're sharing a lifetime. Otherwise, people go off in separate directions. Half of marriages end, and so. And I'm sure we'd have the same thing with just relationships that people are together with. So there is an important thing. If you want this relationship you're in, this marriage you're in to last, you just have to work. But you have to work at the small things. Just remember it. We love each other. We care for each other. Remember when we met. Just the hugging, touching, tactile, just things like that. And work at it and want to work at it. Want to be with somebody and want to share a lifetime. If you don't, then obviously then things aren't going to work. But even worse is when people plan that and they want to, but they become different people by leading different lives. And you could do that living in the same house. So you don't want to do that. You want to have these intentional acts that make a long-term, relationship. They're small, just,
and they don't have to, Doc, they don't have to be built around when the calendar tells you. For example, here in another week or so, we've got a week or 2 weeks, we've got Valentine's Day coming up. For some people, they plan it forever and ever. But what about February 15th? What about February 20th? These are the other days on the calendar. We get caught up in Hallmark holidays too, but forget that, instead of one big blowout night on Valentine's Day, and restaurants are telling me, Dave, shut up right now. But look, I'm being serious. Think about the romance that happens on the other days. That's important, maybe a lot more important than Valentine's Day. Just something to keep in mind. That's all.
Listen, we've been at it 47 years, so
wow.
You've been at it 35, so that's like 82 years combined. So that's
what do we know?
Time. Well, I mean,
what do we know? Well, it is long, but but I'll tell you something else, Doc. It doesn't seem like that many years when you add everything up. I mean, they go by quickly, but it doesn't seem like, I'm going to spend my life 30-some years with one person. How am I going to get through from? No, it doesn't seem like that at all. A lot of it seems like a breeze, and that's what's made it great. And I can't imagine people who get married and, like, if they drift apart, then they can't stand being with each other, then they got to get separate, they got to go. I understand that, but I can't get over the life of, how quick the other years will go if you're enjoying your time with the other person. Seriously.
Well, that is true. You're completely right, because you're sharing a life. You're doing it together. You're having joint memories.
Yes.
And if you're having children, then you have children, you have grandchildren. But even if you don't have children, you still have each other, and you're there as a team. And I think that's important. And again, that you're going to have people that are strong in certain areas. In fact, maybe a bad joke I heard recently was when I met my wife, I knew her name was Miss Right. I didn't realize till after marriage that her first name was she's always right. Okay, now that your wife would probably say, well, that's a bad joke. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a bad joke.
You have to have humor. You have to just enjoy life. And you really can enjoy life, I believe, much more when there are two people sharing it, observing, talking about it, and just really leading a happy life. If you haven't been doing this, you can start right away. That's the beauty of the thing. There's no, until it's over, as Yogi Berra would say, until it's over, it ain't over. You just keep working, and you just want to have a good life and enjoy it and share it. And it's the small things, the everyday events that that make life good and make life better, and that's how I look at it. Apparently, you do.
And so I know I absolutely do, and I'd throw in one more item here. It's not it adds into the marriage part, but for any people out there who've got young, maybe sons or daughters, they're getting married. You get the wedding planning going on, and I get that it can be a lot, but plan for the marriage, not just the wedding, okay? Take time and plan for the marriage. And think about the small stuff like you brought up here that's going to be going on and how that's going to get you through tough times, whatever. Because once the ceremony and the honeymoon are done and all the guests have gone away and all the table knickknacks and the candid photos are done that they took and left, and that's a wonderful album. When all that is done, that's just the wedding, all right? Some people spend all their time worried about the wedding, and not some. We have movies that tell us that, and TV shows and reality shows, but that's just a smidge of what's out there. I mean, I'm not trying to get too philosophical, but I do think plan more for the wedding, be lined up good for the wedding, and remember all these small things that will make your partner feel better every day, and not just in a way like, sex, because that's important, and it is, intimacy. But, Doc, there's a lot of other stuff that enters into this equation. And just
very true,
make it sure.
Very true.
All right. So I'm off my soapbox. I'm not allowed to do that during this segment. But I see a lot of people getting fired up about the weddings. Okay, they're fun. But the marriage is a lot more important than the actual wedding. It just is.
It's a day-to-day effort that really turns the marriage into a good beginning to a successful, happy life.
Agreed. 100%. The good doctor here, Dr. John Braccio, drjohnb.com. That's where you go for the podcast on just about any angle and realm of good mental health. You'll find it there, and it's easy to go through and listen to. With Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. It's always good to talk to you, my friend. Whether you're in the warm spot, South Florida, watch out for those falling iguanas. Okay, no falling iguanas for you in Miami. Take care. We're going to be back on the Morning Wake Up in a moment. Don't go away. 1320 WILS.